What's up everyone, Vu of FujiFilms, and I am back with another idiotic video for you to watch. And today, this video is completely unplanned, but I discovered something very shocking as I was testing the FujiFilm XT3. As I mentioned in this video, wherever that's going to be before, I am currently trying to add the Fuji XT system to my gear lineup. As y'all may know, I shoot Sony a7 III and Sony a7SIII. I've been a Sony douchebag fanboy for the past 5 years, and I still am. I'm not getting rid of my Sony gear. I'm just adding Fuji to my equipment lineup. And Fuji, right now, just, the past couple of days, I had a shoot yesterday, and just testing out the system, testing out the lens options that I have. Currently, I only have the 23mm f1.4 and the 35mm f1.4 Fuji lenses that I've been testing. And I'm going to talk about this new edition here in just a moment. But as many of you Sony shooters, like me, we're all kind of like sick of waiting for what Sony's going to do next. Are they going to release a7 IV? Are they going to release the a7S III? When is it going to come out? If it's going to come out, whatever. Now let's just say that it is going to come out. Let's say it's going to come out this year. The next two rumors I've heard in terms of like dates is May at NAB, which a possible a7 IV is going to come out. And the most latest rumor for the a7S III is not until August. So let's say it's announced in August, I don't know, late August, and then you get to do a pre-order. You're not going to get into another 2 months after that. So by that time, it is already October. Wedding season is pretty much wrapped up. So, hey, like you just went through, for me, as a wedding videographer, I just went through most of the year without having 4K 60 10-bit like I wanted to all this time. One thing I also want to mention is that you have to also think about the production. So let's say you do pre-order an a7S III when it comes out in August. You're probably going to wait a lot longer than usual even because of the coronavirus going on, and production times are being like extended a lot because obviously people in China are not working, and a lot of pieces that create the camera comes out of China. So the reason why I'm making this video is to not just help Sony filmmakers, Sony videographers, any other brand of videography. If you're thinking about switching over to the Fuji system, that what goes into it, is it going to be tough for you? Is it going to be weird? And honestly, for the past 2 days, it is of testing it. I feel no different than with using the XT3 than I am using with Sony. The only different thing is I get 4K 60 at 10-bit, 200 megabits per second, and I get 4K 24 at 10-bit, 400 megabit per second, all recorded internal. And like I said in the previous video, I have already pre-ordered the FujiFilm XT-4, and the reason why I bought this XT3 here was to get acclimated with the system before the XT4 comes out, and I'll probably also use this XT3 as a second camera. Now, my biggest concern when doing the switch over is autofocus, okay? Sony has amazing autofocus. I could trust it, I could rely on it, no problem, no qualms, like I know exactly what it's going to do. So my concern was like, can I live with Fuji XT autofocus system? Is it as good? No, it is not quite as good. But is it good enough? And I am glad to tell you that it is good enough. Even with the not most ideal video lenses that I've been using, 23 and 35 f1.4 are not the best video autofocusing lenses. But from my test, from what I have done with it, it has worked great. It worked good enough. Like I find no complaints about it. So there's the autofocus issue, right? And I'll show you in a bit. And the other concern is full frame to APS-C. Obviously, if you shoot a7 III and you're going to Fuji, it's going to be going from a full frame camera to an APS-C camera. Now, this really just depends on your use, okay? If you're like a primarily a photographer, and you do some video here and there, you're probably going to like using like stuff like 24, f1.4, 24-70, f2.8. These wider angle, fast aperture lenses that you just won't have on a Fuji or APS-C system, right? I mean, you have 16 millimeter f1.4, right? But after you factor in the crop factor, you're looking at a 24 millimeter like f2. So you cannot really get a true 24 millimeter f1.4 like you do on a full frame camera. And if that's an important thing for you, then that's something you might want to think about. If you're like me, I live primarily 35 to 85. Like that's like the range I like to shoot. If I shoot wide, like 24, it's just to like show the venue real quick. That's not even at f1.4. That's like f1, like f4, probably f2.8. If it's low light situation is good enough. F1.8 is fine as well if it's really low light and I don't want to crank ISO. That is perfectly enough for me. So I don't need like crazy fast apertures in the wide end. It's fine with me. And I'm also not a primary photographer. And if I do photography, I'm mainly more of a portrait photographer. I like shooting 35 to 85 as portraits as well. So, which leads me to the medium to tighter lens options for APS-C. If you're like a medium to tight shooter like I am, full frame APS-C doesn't matter because as long as I have f2.8 or faster, I'm good. And FujiFilm provides that because 35 f1.4, 56 f1.2, 23 f1.4. That's f1.4 on an APS-C camera is really like a f2.1 on full frame, and that is perfectly enough bokeh blur for my D-bag ass. So, one of the most shocking discoveries I made today, and I'm sorry it took me this long to get here, was this setup. This is the Fuji XT3 with a Fringer EF to FX Pro II adapter with the Canon EF mount Sigma 18 to 35 f1.8 lens. And for some Sony shooters, you're probably used to this lens with like, I don't know, the MC11 or, you know, Metabone Speed Booster, what have you. You do know that the autofocus for it in video is complete trash. It does not track well. It does not, it's not as reliable as, you know, native glass, etc., etc. But for some random reason, this lens here, this 18 to 35 Canon adapted glass to this Fuji XT3 autofocuses in video better than the 23mm f1.4 and 35mm f1.4 native Fuji glass. And to be clear, those lenses aren't the best for autofocus, but I mean, this thing is shockingly amazing. And as a person who's trying to do more handheld shooting, especially with the XT-4 coming, with the great IBIS that it has, that, you know, if you watch all these YouTube reviews out there, the IBIS is absolutely amazing compared to the Sony system that we're all used to, and even like the Nikon system we're all used to. Not as good as GH5, but it's like pretty dang close. And after you factor in like the weight of this massive BBG, big black piece of glass here, it makes for a great handheld system, and it's very versatile because you get 18 to 35 mil, which I don't know what that converts to, like probably like 28 millimeter to 50 millimeter on this APS-C, like, you know, crop. But that's great at f1.8, so it's a nice fast aperture. So that's like an f2.7 if you factor in the crop factor. So you got f1.8 lens here, so it would look like a f2.7 APS-C lens, and that is perfectly enough bokeh juice in this for me. I have no complaints about that at all. And just the, you know, the way it handles is very nice. It's nice. It has a nice weight to it, so you could do like really nice slow, what do you call it? Handheld movements with it, with minimal shake, even without IBIS. So here's a clip of me outside on my deck, looking like a straight YouTube D-bag, aka tube douche, doing like autofocus tracking tests on the deck. So I want to make it difficult, so I did a 35 f1.8, and I just walked back and forth on my deck. This is, of course, 4K, 24 frames per second, 400 megabits per second, 10-bit, just, you know, straight up full face tracking and eye tracking on. This is the F-Log profile with Eterna LUT grade, and I probably will slightly grade it a bit to my taste, and I'm showing you guys this footage right now. This is how it tracks. Is it as good as Sony? Did it maybe miss a little bit? Probably, but hey, man, like, this is good enough for me. Now I'm going to switch the camera over, okay? This is currently a Sony a7SIII. I'm going to switch it to the Fuji XT3 with this 18 to 35 millimeter lens, and you tell me what it looks like. It's going to get a little tighter because 16, you know, it's going to be 2 millimeters difference, it's going to be closer, but I'm going to switch it right now. So now I've switched over to the Fuji XT3. This is at 4K 24, 400 megabits per second, 10-bit internal, 420. So this is, I'm not even sure if it's in focus, what it's doing. This is f1.8. This is Sigma at 18 mil, I think. Yes, 18 mil f1.8. So is it doing okay? Is it pumping? What is it doing? I don't know. I'll check when I get back. But yeah, so this is what this footage looks like, and this is just with eternal LUT as well. Maybe I'll just do some other grading with it and see what it looks like. But yeah, this is some example of Fuji 4K 10-bit at maximum data size of 400 megabits per second 10-bit. So yeah, if you have any further questions about this, just let me know in the comments below. Again, I'm not like completely like ditching my Sony stuff. I'm gonna keep my Sony stuff. I am gonna sell a couple of bodies to make room for the Fuji system, and I'm probably gonna only use the Sony bodies for like photography work, especially on the wider end, and on wedding videos and stuff. I'm gonna use it for like a different angle at the ceremony, because these, it's still great footage. It's just not as good. But I mean, 4K, 24p, 8-bit will still look pretty good, as long as I control my grading with it. And yeah, so if you have any questions, please let me know in the comments below. Please give me a subscribe if you haven't done so already. Like, all I do is this videography information, pretty much whatever I'm curious with on my end, and I try to do like my own testing to figure out like if something's gonna work for me. I'm gonna just start making videos of it. So whatever my curiosity is as a filmmaker, videographer, gear, or what have you, I will try to make a video of it and share with you guys, and hopefully you guys get some value out of it. So if you like this video, please give it a like and subscribe. It'll be greatly appreciated. And until next time, lighten up.